Right now, it's 3 a.m. somewhere, and if you're watching this video at that exact hour, you already know the feeling. That strange alertness, the quiet, the sense that you should be asleep but your brain has other plans. You've probably Googled it. Why do I wake up at 3 a.m.? You might have even called it insomnia. But here's what no one tells you. For 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors woke up at this exact time, on purpose. And what they did during these hours literally shaped what it means to be human. You're not broken, you're not an insomniac, you're doing something so ancient that your body remembers it even though your mind has completely forgotten. So, what did ancient humans actually do at 3 a.m.? And why are you still doing it? Let's start with something that's going to sound impossible. For most of human history, people didn't sleep the way you think they slept. The idea of sleeping for 8 consecutive hours straight through the night in total darkness is shockingly modern. In fact, it's only been the dominant sleep pattern for about 200 years. That's less than 1% of human existence. Before the Industrial Revolution, before electric lights, before gas lamps, and even before candles became affordable, humans lived by a completely different rhythm. When the sun went down around 7 or 8 p.m., there wasn't much you could do. Fire provided some light, but not enough to work by, and wasting firewood on staying up late wasn't practical. So people went to sleep, but not for the whole night. They would sleep for roughly 4 hours, from about 8 p.m. until midnight or 1 a.m. Then something happened that modern sleep scientists thought was impossible until very recently. They woke up, naturally, completely, and they stayed awake for 1 to 3 hours in the middle of the night. This wasn't restless sleep. This wasn't tossing and turning. This was full consciousness right around the time we now call 3 a.m. And then, after this period of wakefulness, they would go back to sleep for another 3 to 4 hours until dawn. This pattern had a name. Actually, it had two. The first period was called first sleep. The wakeful period in the middle was called the watch, and the second period was second sleep or morning sleep. And this is how every human being on the planet slept for thousands of years. But here's what's fascinating. This wasn't just discovered recently because someone found an old diary. The evidence was hiding in plain sight for centuries. We just didn't know what we were looking at. In 2001, historian Roger E. Kirch from Virginia Tech published a paper that would completely change sleep science. He had spent 16 years combing through historical documents, prayer books from the 1400s, court depositions, medical manuals, personal diaries, literature from ancient Rome, even passages in Homer's Odyssey written nearly 3,000 years ago. Over 500 references, spanning continents and centuries, all mentioned the same thing: first sleep and second sleep. A 15th century prayer book instructed Christians on which prayers to say during the watch between sleeps. A 16th century French doctor recommended that the best time for couples to conceive was during the wakeful period between first and second sleep, because they would do it with greater pleasure and therefore greater success. An English ballad from 1711 referenced a character rising after their first sleep to tend to the fire. A Scottish legal deposition from 1606 mentioned a servant waking after her first sleep to hear suspicious sounds. Think about this. For hundreds of years, scholars and translators had been reading these references, but they kept reinterpreting them, mistranslating them, or just skipping over them entirely, because the concept was so foreign to modern experience that they literally couldn't comprehend that humans once slept differently. The assumption that we've always slept in one block was so deeply embedded that it made us blind to overwhelming evidence saying otherwise. But what did people actually do during those wakeful hours around 3 a.m.? The historical records are incredibly specific, and what they reveal is remarkable. People did everything during the watch between sleeps. Some of it was practical. They would get up to tend the fire, making sure it wouldn't go out before morning. In medieval homes, letting your fire die overnight meant hours of work the next day trying to restart it. Some people would check on their animals or their children, but most of what people did during this time was something we've almost entirely lost. They were quiet. They reflected, they existed in stillness.